Instead of sitting up formally to begin, I would like to just invite us to come into a gentle supportive backward bending. So those of you that have the large bolster, I'm going to do this. I'm finally back home and I have my bolsters. I've been just using pillows. So if you don't have the large bolster, then just make yourself a set of pillows. We want to make sure you can support the whole upper body. So we're not going to arch the back and let the shoulders relax back. We want the upper body to be relaxed. So we'll take the pillow or the, or even blankets. You could stack blankets to this height as well. And we're going to sit on the floor. And what I'm also recommending, if you have a small bolster, to put the heels over it so the heels are not pressing on the floor. Oh, you can't see that. Something like this. But this also works well. You can just roll up a towel or another blanket. So I just like to have the heels off the floor initially, so the pressure on the heels isn't distracting. So we'll have that, and then we'll bring the bolstering in. And really important and good to tuck it in. So oftentimes when we want to come into this kind of backward bend, the bolstering or the pillows will slide, and there'll be a gap there. We want to really feel like it's really tucked in there, and then we'll just let the upper body come over. Again, have the buttocks on the floor, relax the head back. So we're just in this hopefully mild to moderate backward bend that you can hold for some time. If you need a little something for the head, yes, but try not to bring the chin down, and let the arms relax on either side of you. Let again, the legs out, but I'd like to bring just the heels off the floor so the ankles are supported with a smaller bolster or a towel. And just take a few moments as you're breathing, and you now have the time and the space to bring to your breathing awareness, just to enjoy it, just to come into a place where you are able to just appreciate just the very fact that you exist, to let go as much as possible of all the sort of the reflections that we have, certainly to be grateful for and or to be concerned with, and just breathe into your body, your heart, with just a great appreciation just for this simple and profound moment that you exist, and just to enjoy that and appreciate that. And then I'd like to open with just a short reading from my yoga journal. I was just flipping through it and I saw the word remarkable in capital letters and underlined and little smile faces around it. And I thought this was a nice way to just start to open, especially a yin practice where we're more interested in spaciousness and receptivity than specifics and technique. No matter how many experiences of insight or realization we may have had, we always remain with just this fresh moment that has never been before and will never be again. Remarkable. That everything keeps slipping through our fingers, each sensation dissolving into the next. Nothing is truly static because what we call a thing is really just a ceaseless flow of sensations. So enjoy. Can't stop it. Do not need to stop it. Can't control it. Do not need to control it. Great release. And now the meditation of yoga. And I do understand that the temptation, really just the temptation of yoga in general, or the temptation of any sort of consciousness body work, is to sort of come to it thinking, well, if I'm just going to work on my body, I'm just going to remove these blockages and these aches and pains and this weariness from my bones, and then I can, work on other things. But primarily the yoga is at this sort of primal physical level. But, as we begin to relax and as we begin to just allow a more expansive relationship to our own experience, we can see very quickly that our history and our whole world, our environment, our traumas and our joys, they're all in the body. So this is not an abstract practice. This is a very visceral practice. So the slowing down is really to feel what's happening in the body directly, certainly at those points of tension and discomfort, but also what the body is representing, what the body is holding in the fabric of the body. Our world and our traumas, our joys, our history, it's all embedded within there. Where else could it be, really? So the encouragement of this approach is to relax into that, to feel into that. And this is precisely why this exploration becomes so, really very personal and intimate, and in a way it's self-guided. The postures and my sharing is really just to hold space, so we can really start to explore that. What is an image? What is a sensation? What is a feeling? Really, what are these things? And so we sort of relax into this flow of imagery, sensations, feelings that are, very vague sometimes without boundaries. But this is the fabric of what I was saying earlier, what's being held in the body. So, it's very layered, but in a way it's very non-specific, because what arises for you is unique to you. So this is why we really encourage, and the primary container is just letting go and relaxing, and just see what's there for you. And as long as you're safe, we can let the discomfort, the compression, the stress of the position really seep in, because the whole system is now opening and vibrating and communicating and pulsating. Good. So at this point, let's stay in the backward bend just a little bit longer. But if you could take your feet off whatever support you have and just put the soles of the feet together, and just allow your knees to relax to each side. So this will just take you into the hips a bit. So soles of the feet together and knees just relaxing to the side. And just sort of feel this. And if there's a concern about injury or too much intensity, or you don't feel safe, you can certainly put something under one of or both of the knees or the thighs to support. And just simply, remembering to come in and out of conscious breathing. This practice allows us to, slip below that we're consciously breathing, because we enter sort of a different rhythm of brain waves. So very good just to forget you're breathing at all, and trust and know and appreciate that the body will breathe you. This is a lovely gift that we have. But also sometimes it's nice to lengthen and slow down and deepen the breath, and just somewhere to know that the breath itself, the quality of the prana, the movement of the oxygen in and the carbon dioxide out of the body is affecting your sleep. It's affecting your entire back line, your digestion. It's affecting your memory, and it's affecting your levels of anxiety or not. So allowing, the way that I really like to explore the breath is that it's a very powerful intelligence. How could it not be? It's keeping us alive. So sometimes we want to allow that intelligence to permeate all of these systems, and sort of check in. How does it feel when I breathe? Is there any glitch there? Is there any shallowness? Is there any anxiety? So we're just exploring the intelligence of this system that keeps us alive. Good. So you can bring those knees back up if you had them side to side, and put both feet on the floor. And I want to come back to this with a little addition, but let's take a break here. So put your feet on the floor and just roll off to your side and curl up in a little ball. And let's take a rest here, because that was significant to get started with, especially in the lower back. So let's just take a rest here. And, one of the things that the approach of the yin really is inviting us to cultivate, and certainly, obviously, from an asana point of view, from moving the physical body in these different shapes, but even beyond that, anything that we're really wanting to contemplate, anything that we want to meditate on, even problem solving or spiritual practice, what the yin is really inviting us to do is genuinely learn how to relax. So learn how to relax to the point where we have no agenda. We're able to sit with a quality of not knowing. And then what's the object of our contemplation or meditation, we make a different kind of space. So it's really so much about balancing energy, that we can, use the yang energy, the directness of that, from A to B, logical and linear, obviously important and in a creative way, but we also want to explore body, mind, relationship to, our ecology to the world and to the universe in a non-linear way as well. So the yin allows us to do that. So the resting is very important. So we're still very much in a felt sense of these images and sensations and feelings, and what are they really, but from a very relaxed and open and available place. So let's just sit up for a moment, if you will, and we're going to just take a few moments here before we go back into the backward bend. And what we're going to do is we're just going to tap along the body just to open up some of the meridian lines. So we're going to use only the 4 fingers. And if you've not done this before with the tapping, it's very light. So you don't have to force it or press or make anything happen, but just a light tapping. And it doesn't matter if it's even, you'll feel a rhythm. And the 4 points that we're going to use is we're going to go along the upper top, the cheekbones, right below the eyes. So we'll tap there for a bit, and I'll just sort of guide it. And then we'll go to the collarbone. So where the clavicles are, we'll tap here, tap, 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 tap. And then we'll go to the sternum, tap, tap, tap on the sternum. And then we'll go under the ribs here, right at the line of the ribs right here for the, this is the line of the, sort of the lymph points. It's a lovely point. But let's start together. So just relax your arms for a second. And we want the tips of the fingers involved, very relaxed, and the tapping to be just soft and really just sort of intuitive. You can let your jaw relax and let the muscles of the jaw relax. Good. So let's begin. We'll just take the 4 fingers of each hand, and we'll start with the cheekbones. This is along the, very good for the immune system. And we'll just begin to tap. So very light. You can have a little bit of movement side or up and down a little bit, but just tap, 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 tap. Just keep tapping. Yeah, it doesn't matter if the head wants to come down a little bit or the chin up. Just tap, tap, tap. Just very light, and just sort of feel the energy just sort of dispersing the chi of this area of the body. And then we'll move to the collarbone. Yep, so this is the right where the clavicles are, maybe underneath the collarbone, right a tiny bit. You can go out a little bit or come in a little bit closer to where they slip down to the sternum. So again, tap, 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 tap. tap. This is these are up here in the collarbone, connected to most of the yin points in the body. So we're just stimulating the system with this passive motion instead of a static yin posture. And then the sternum itself. So just find that sternum between the breastbone here, the thymus gland. This is a really nice one for vitality. So you may want to sit up a little straighter, open the shoulders back, and just keep tapping, 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 tap, tap, tap. And then we'll go right under the rib cage here. So the rim of the ribs, yeah. So you're not right on the ribs, but just underneath a little bit. So these are neuro lymph points. And just kind of feel it. Just tap, 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 tap. And any soreness, just tap into it. Just feel it. Obviously, don't hurt yourself, but just let the body receive this, this level of stimulation. Tap, 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 tap. And then let's just go back through it just a little bit quicker. So from the ribs back up to the sternum, tap, 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 tap on the sternum, at the collarbones up here near where the clavicles might be. And then once again, at the top of the cheekbone, under the eyes, tap, 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 tap. And then let both arms just relax for a moment and just feel that release through the fingertips, out the arms. Let your face, your eyes completely relax, especially the behind the eyes, the optic and the macular nerve vibrating and stimulating into the vestibular system. And then on the right hand, just make a light fist and find the spot where your heart would be on the left side. And just with the fist, just tap that heart space. And just let this be very grounding. This is just to remind us that we are here. We are physical. We are presently in this incarnation, and the heart is pulsating. The blood is flowing. The neurotransmitters of the brain are firing. And hopefully it's all good. And then just relax that arm down and let's just sit with your energy just for a few moments. And just take a moment just to notice that any of the language that I use, your lymph points or heart pulsating, blood flowing, these are just very, very superficial pointers. These are only labels. They're not the reality of your experience. The reality of our experience is something we really cannot define. So we spend this time to just sink into the body as a bioelectrical current, as a vibration, as a somatic presence. Good. So you can open the legs now if you've had your knees bent. And I want to go back into that backward bend. What I'm going to add now, if you have a small bolster, you could use the small bolster. And if you have a small bolster, you could use a blanket. So this is a bit deep for this, but if you want a little bit more depth in the thoracic spine, that would do. But what I'm going to also do is offer it with a towel. So I'm going to roll the towel up a little bit and I'm going to put it halfway on my bolster. And if you have pillows here or whatever support you have, it'll work just as well. And where I want to place this is I want to place this right below the shoulder blades. So it's not going to come all the way down into the lumbar. That would be one thing to do. It's going to be up a little bit higher, but it comes below the shoulder blades. So again, keeping your larger bolster tucked in and then coming back. It may take a few times to get this just right. So if it's up on the scapula, then bring it down a little bit. Yeah. So just incrementally so you don't get too close into the lower back. So there we go, right below the shoulder blades. If it feels unsafe, unroll the towel a little bit, obviously, and then we'll just let the upper body come back over it. So now we've got the similar lumbar back bend, but we've added this compression into the thoracic spine. have it be just appropriate for you. Again, when you let the legs relax out, if you'd like to elevate the heels, that's quite nice, or you just want to let the feet relax on the floor, you could do that as well. So just some additional compression in the mid back, below the shoulder blades, not all the way to the lumbar, the buttocks on the floor, and then the bigger bolstering, either blankets or pillows, or the big bolster snugged once again into the lower back. And in some way, this inquiry that I proposed earlier, considering these images that are appearing for you, the sensations that are arising, and the feelings that are, kind of flowing through, what are these? This is, not meant as an inquiry to actually find these or label these, but what yoga is suggesting is that these are all just a manifestation of your aliveness. So this is the fundamental primal energy. This is the fundamental, essence that we are alive. We are aware that we are alive, and then the perspectives, if you will, the way that the aliveness shows up and manifests, this is what we're open to exploring. So no need to, micromanage, no need to, dissect anything particularly. I mean, sometimes we do have an interest. It's like, wow, what is that? Like I said earlier, because this is also a manifestation of our biological history and our traumas and our joys and our life force from the moment we were born. But to see that whatever it really is arising is at some level a manifestation of just this primal aliveness. And in addition, often we can think, and this is the beauty of how this practice evolves, is that we, like I said earlier, we can often, be seduced into thinking, well, we're just working physically. I just want to, work these kinks out. But one of the things we begin to understand, especially at the level of this life force, is that whenever we are, moving through our world and we're, suppressing a movement or a gesture or an emotion, ultimately and fundamentally, this is suppressing the life force. And this is fundamentally what gets contracted into the system. So we don't have to necessarily name it. Sometimes we can, and that's part of a process. But whether it's an emotional, or it's a psychological, or it's just a repetitive movement, it's something that gets suppressed into the system, fundamentally is a blockage of our life force. And this is what we want to release. This is what we want to be more freely flowing. And then how we put the pieces together, that's our own, personal choice. This becomes, more process work than yoga. Yoga fundamentally is about this flow of how the energy is moving, how the energy is moving from the cells to the tissues, to the organs, to the bones, to the joints, through the respiratory, lymph, all of these systems. So the vibration is global in the body, and the movement of the life force, the same thing. And part of this suppression that I'm talking about, it can be very, very unconscious sometimes. I'm not simply talking about sort of our emotional states that we are not ready to face, and we just push them down into the unconscious. Just really sometimes the complexities of living, that things come up and we're not either willing or do not have the time or the space to really process something. And so they get pushed to the side, they get pushed down. So this is why we really want to slow down, why the quality of relaxation is so important, because the subtlety of our breath, the subtlety of our awareness, and just the felt sense of the body, and how we can, even without putting words to it, how we can feel that there's something there. We can feel there's something, below the surface that wants release or expression, or at least attention, or at least care, or at least love. So we're using these feelings, the subtlety of this felt sense to, sort of bring things into the light a bit, so we can then, give it whatever appropriate attention it needs. Good. So once again, let's put your feet on the floor and just have any intuitive movement. This is back, this is mid. I don't have to tell you that. So you may even want to bring the arms up over the head and see how the mid spine is doing. Just really take your time here coming out of it. Maybe the knees back and forth into a little twist here. and just make sure that all of the muscular tension has released enough to actually come out of this. So slower is always better. And this time you can roll onto your side when you're ready to come off. You can stay rolled on your side, but you could also just lie down flat. Maybe initially bring the knees up to the chest and sway a bit. And then we'll take a little longer rest here since that was significant backward bending. And just to say, I mean, this is one of the things that makes yoga so, just so brilliant, and why even in its, morphing into the modern age, it has, remained so enduring, because essentially what we're doing is that we are cultivating and holding a container of ourselves to explore ourselves. And so the container, not always, but if we're talking hatha yoga, certainly the container is the breath and the asana, the shape that we put the body in. That's simply the container. That's not the end. That's just the means. And so then what we're exploring, so this is the container of ourself, and then to explore ourself, it can have these layers and these levels of, oftentimes it is purely physical. And then we see that the physical, has its own way to morph into the emotional responding or triggering the psychological, and the psychological triggering the physiological. So we want the container to be appropriate so we can make this investigation. And then the consequences of, the bones and the joints opening, that just happens naturally, because the compression into the fascia is a whole science of itself. This is what the fascia needs to be healthy and communicative and alive, basically, to rehydrate. So it seems like we're doing this to open up and feel better, but really we're doing this to cultivate a very, very intimate exploration into the nature of ourself at whatever level we happen to have access to. And it gets particularly interesting, I think, when we begin to see that this thing we're calling a self is really just a collection of stories about self. That once we start to relax those stories, once we start to give that part of our psyche some space, this becomes a very, just a very mysterious and cosmic exploration. Okay, then, so let's come on up, please. And let's see, I'm going to even add one more layer to this just to make a point that you can work on the knees with this. And then I'll bring it down to the way that I'm going to show what we're going to do to open the shoulders a bit. But I'm making this point to show that we can, work on the knees at any level. So maybe this is a little silly, but that's okay. I'm fully committed to being silly. So what I want to do is I want to bend the knees back, yeah? And so if you're like, oh no, I can't do that, if you made something like this, probably you could do this, yes, because we've released so much tension in the knees. Of course, if you have a serious injury, a recent knee replacement, and this is totally inaccessible, and you're making that determination based on your safety and injury, then you could just sit and do this, what we're going to do. But so here's very, very little pressure on my knees. And then if I release it down, there's a little bit more. So my knees are still feeling okay. So I would take the big one out for myself and just come in for the small one. So if you're able to build something so you can keep the knees bent, it won't be too long, but I don't want you to be worrying about injury while we're working onto the shoulders. And of course, if you don't need it, you can just sit between the heels. You know, that's lovely as well. But I'm going to use this. Yep. So now I've brought my knees to, I don't really need to be concerned about them, but I am applying a certain amount of therapeutic compression. So the knees will certainly receive that. And this is interesting after those backward bends, because we could do the knees bent back with the backward bend, which we often do, but this is giving us the best of both. So what we're going to do here is we're going to work on the shoulders. Yeah, so let's first start, just open the shoulders up a bit. Let's just bring the arms up over the head and interlock the fingers and press the palms up to the ceiling. Yeah, and see if you can straighten the elbows a bit. Don't force it, certainly. Bring the arms back a little bit, maybe to the ears if you're able to. And then pressing the palms up with the elbows straight. Just come laterally, just come to the right and left a little bit, just see how this feels. And not too quickly though, so when you start to come into something and you feel something, ease into that. Slower is always better. Slower is better. Yeah, so back and forth a little bit. And then let's release that and just interlock your fingers behind your back. And just bring again, if you can keep the elbows straight, just bring the arms up. So I have a bookcase here, so I'm not going to bring my arms up. And yes, but just bring them up as much as you can, keeping the elbows straight. And if you can't interlock the fingers, you can just do it with the arms. So we're just sort of really preparing the shoulders to go a little bit deeper in. Maybe open the mouth wide here just to stretch the jaw after that tapping, the superficial fascia of the face, again, the optic nerve, the tension in the jaw muscle. Maybe let the head roll around a little bit. Good. And so then you can release the arms. And I'm going to time this very specifically. So unlike some of our poses when we have no idea when they're going to end, this will begin and end in a reasonable amount of time. So not to worry there. Yeah. So let's inhale the arms up over the head. And then let's bring the left arm under the right, twisting at the elbows. So left under right. So eagle arms, for those of you that know that. And then if you can hold on to something, great. If you can interlock the fingers, you could do that, or you could put the hands in prayer position or make a fist and hold it, whatever works. If you can't go this deep, just bring them as close as possible. Then take an inhale breath, and on the exhalation, slowly come in and down. Don't make the mistake of coming forward and out. It's more like you're trying to pull those elbows right into the solar plexus. Let the head relax down as well, and just seep into it. And certainly don't force it. Find, again, that appropriate place where you can just feel the tension is saturating the muscles and the fascia. And I mean the tension that we're applying. So we're applying tension to the tissues, whether muscular or ligamental, and then afterwards the elongation would be the stretch. So we're applying that tension, and just do it very, very, very carefully. Good. So let's release that and inhale the arms up over the head again. And just let them have some movement here. So we'll go into the other side, but just let them kind of fly around a little bit. Upper torso, shoulders, neck, all of these just incredibly complicated, fascial connections. Good. So let's try the other side. So again, we'll inhale the arms up over the head. We will then bring the right arm under the left. Maybe twist at the elbows here or not. You could hold the hands in prayer, whatever you like. Take an inhale. And on the exhalation, again, just down and in. As much as you can relax into it, certainly without forcing it. And then just try to allow yourself to let the relaxation just blend into stillness. So it's just this pure tension, again, saturating into any misalignments, any dehydration, any restriction of the body. We want to, this is lovely imagery, that the tension is saturating the density of the body. And it does this best in a relaxed stillness. And again, let's release, and we'll inhale the arms up over the head and relax and soften. So this is a good time. I'd like you just to evaluate how your knees are feeling. We're going to do this again. We're going to repeat it. So if you need to bring in some reinforcements for those knees, don't hesitate. So if you want to put a blanket on here, or you have the big bolster, you want to move to the big bolster. So again, just really modifying the compression of the knees, since we're going to be here for a bit longer. But this is lovely for the knees, a lovely way to slowly start to rehabilitate the knees. So just make that adjustment now. Yes. Or you know what, even better yet, let's just release them for a moment. Why not? We have the time. So this is also good, just to have the release, and then we'll go back into the compression. And then you may have a different level of support you'll need, but let's just release them for a moment. Just sort of wiggle around or sway a bit or whatever feels good here. Yeah, so let's set up for that again. So same thing, just something appropriate to make sure the tension level in the knee is not beyond the safety point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it twice as long, but I'm going to alert you at halfway. So if you want to just hold it as long as we hold it the first time, just come out and wait. If you want to ease into it a little bit longer, I'm going to hold it a little bit longer. Yep. So let's begin. So let's inhale both arms up over the head. And this time we'll bring the right arm under the left. So twist at the elbows, palms together or not. You could just hold the wrist or just keep it here. Take an inhale breath and bring those elbows in. So we're trying to bring them mid-solar plexus, navel area, not forward, however, but in and down, creating as much compression as possible. Still breathing, noticing that the breath is evoking micro movement in the body, so just be with that. Still attempting a relative amount of relaxation, even though we're compressing into the density. So this is halfway. If you'd like to continue, just stay right where you are. If you'd like to release and take a rest, this would be the time. Good, so we can release now. So we'll release the arms and we'll inhale the arms up over the head. Let's interlock the fingers once again here. Press the palms up to the ceiling. And again, just a little lateral side to side, nice and slowly. So just really let the weight of the upper torso draw you in a bit. When you get to one side, let the weight of the torso draw you in a little bit on the other side. Maybe bring the arms back a little bit behind the ears and come up and back into a bit of a upper backward bend here. And we'll come back to a straight spine. And then right from here, let's do the other side. So we'll just allow then the arms to come down and bring the left under the right, twisting at the elbows, holding on to something of that right hand. Take an inhale breath and come down, and in. We'll do the other side. Once again, this is halfway. If you would like to release, this would be a good time to release. If you want to stay a little bit longer, we'll go some more time. Staying as curious as you're able to about what your experience is, especially if it gets uncomfortable. Don't ignore it, but certainly don't judge it. A non-judgmental awareness around our sensations allows us to then give them more space to organically reveal to us, if you will. Good. So again, let's release. Inhale the arms up over the head. Relax the arms down. And if you're able to unhinge those knees, let's straighten the legs out. And just for here, before we lie down and take a rest, just take any, let the legs relax out, just any natural angle, and just take any forward bend that feels best to you. So just an intuitive forward bending, let the shoulders relax down, let the weight of the head relax down. Just try not to come forward bending the knees. So just any wide straddle, hips with distance, edge of the mat. So we just come forward here, let those knees relax. So let's come up from this, please. And you can just lie down and let's take a rest here. So before class, we were talking a little bit about memory. So, memory is such an interesting thing, and especially sort of recent research about it, because they're seeing more and more that it's not actually stored in specific compartments per se, even though specific areas of the brain can react in research, but it is more about, neural circuitry being activated, the sort of the complexity of neural pathways. So one of the things that we begin to understand when we really see the depth of the fascia in the body and the way that it conducts light and information and fluid and just the basic nature of its connectivity, from the larger structures of the body right down to the cells, is that there's no aspect of our body, no biochemical aspect of our body that is not affected by fascial restriction. So yes, we can, do as many modalities and therapies and interesting things to keep our body healthy, but at some level, if the flow, the movement of life, the connectivity, the communication is not there, the system will be compromised. So it's a very fascinating system, and I encourage you. There's a tremendous amount of information out there, and any place that you start and you open the doorway, it opens to another doorway and another doorway and another doorway. It's so interesting that it was not known and ignored for many years in terms of our anatomy. And now it's become this, the connective system is a system, simple, just like the circulatory system, just like the skeletal system, and it's holding and interacting all these systems together. So when it becomes compromised, it becomes dehydrated, it becomes entangled, blocked, that will have an effect on all of the other systems because they can't communicate, they can't connect, if you will. So this is the the anatomical, physical root of this practice is a very slow moving in, compressing and releasing, compressing and releasing. And then we're dislodging toxins, we're making more space, we're allowing more alignment, and ultimately more flow, and ultimately more health. So I would like to do this this twist, and I'd just like to show it to you because it's a little, it can be a little tricky to maybe just listen to. So what we'll do is we will, and I'm going to show it kind of tricky. No, I'll just talk this way. I could probably show you better if I rolled that way, but I'm not sure that you can hear me. So from lying flat, you can just bring your knees up to your chest and roll over to the left into a fetal position. Yeah. And it's nice to bring the knees way up. So bring the knees way up. If you want a little something for your head, this might be nice just to have a little pillow for the head is always nice. And then the way we're going to start this twist is we're going to keep the knees as grounded as you can and keep the lower body grounded. And we'll take the right arm and we're going to put it up in the air and then let it come back, but don't let the shoulder go with it. So obviously, if I kept letting my shoulder go all the way to the floor, I would just be in a reclining twist for my lower back, yeah? So what I'm suggesting is keep the shoulder relatively even with the left shoulder and just let the arm go back. As you can see, my shoulder will go back a little bit, but I'm holding the shoulder so it doesn't go all the way to the floor on the right side. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna let this arm dangle here, and it can just be anywhere. You can just kind of find a place. Try not to let it go down to the floor is what I'm saying. So just let the arm dangle. You'll feel some interesting tugging. We'll let this happen for a while, and then I'll call time, and then trying to keep the knees here, we'll let that right shoulder go all the way to the floor. And then if the knees need to come up a little bit, that's okay. So we're switching the twist from mid to upper and then mid to lower, approximately. So let's come into that. Come into fetal. Let the right arm stretch up and then just let it drift back a bit. But when the shoulder wants to go with it, hold the shoulder there and let the weight of the arm just take you back into it. You'll see it's really nice twist if you've not been used to doing this. And if that shoulder gets too close, if the shoulder wants to go down with it, you can bring it up a little bit, reposition it. And just again, it's more just the weight of the arm from where the arm fits into the shoulder. So we don't want the whole shoulder going back. Try not to struggle at all with this. It's always okay to find your way with it. Let the sensations, the discomfort, the feelings all kind of blend and guide you to where you need to be. Good. So we're going to try to keep those knees where they are. and then let now the upper body roll. So the shoulder, that right shoulder will be on the floor. And then if the knees need to come up a little bit, fine. But the shoulder on the floor then will then allow the twist to drift a little bit, and you hopefully can feel that. And certainly this fascial network is not all, connectivity and information. It has a very intentional structural component to it. So often these restrictions, what we consider limited range of motion, tightness, achiness, is because the structural aspect is basically holding things together. This is what joints are. So the fibrous nature of the fascia can be very, very wiry-like and have a tension to it that's actually holding you together. So this is again why we don't want to force it. This cannot be forced. So we move into it with great gentleness and great respect, and as much subtle listening as possible, listening for internal cues, not going too far, backing off when need be, allowing the breath to relax. It's this entire inner dance that you are, that you're cultivating. And again, the posture itself is just a container. This is the container of yourself to explore yourself. Good, so let's bring those knees back up and just straighten the legs out. And before we do the other side, just take any intuitive movement that you need to do. Sometimes I'm not saying to do this, but I'm just saying do intuitive movement, so whatever feels good, and then we'll take a little rest before we do the other side. But oftentimes I will just come into, as I bring my knees to my chest and start to soften, I'll just bring them up and over and come into a full snail position with bent knees, just because it's an amazing position for the lower back, but also compressing these endocrine organs. It's really a daily thing to compress these endocrine organs, I believe. If I had to choose between a snail pose a day and flossing, I think I'd go with the snail pose, but luckily I don't have to choose. Good, so let's do the other side of this. So same thing, let's bring the knees up to the chest. And this time we'll roll over to the right, obviously, into our fetal position. Have something for your head if you would like. We'll extend first the arm up and just really feel this groundedness. So we have an opportunity to bring the knees way up
the right shoulder grounded, and in some way, we're going to keep the shoulders even, but we know there's going to be a little offset. Left arm relaxes up, and then just let the left arm drift back. And then when that shoulder wants to go with it, a feeling of rolling back, just don't do it. Just let the arm go. Yeah. And then we'll just find a spot where the arm can relax back. You'll feel it.
There's a lovely quote from the Vedic scriptures, just sort of about this idea that, you know, maybe we don't have enough time to do our yoga, or we're not willing to look closely at a behavior or a habit that is, you know, maybe going to catch up with us. It's so lovely. It says that the addictions and the consolations of samsara are sweet in the beginning and bitter in the end. And I think part of, you know, also how I translate that is the approach of the yin, these qualities of yin, is how do we learn to give a genuine and authentic value to resting, as much value as to our activity, so we can come into a balance that's not only right for us but healthy for us. Good. So once again, let's leave the legs where they are for the most part, and let that left shoulder just drift down so the shoulder is grounded on the floor. If you can keep the knees there, great. If they pop up a little bit, let them go where they will. But the shoulder on the floor then will allow the deeper twist into the lumbar area. And even being able to fully rest within a yoga posture, you know, just exploring any energy of needing to figure out or to control, but just to simply be. You're spending time with your energy, you're spending time with your body. Nothing to figure out, nothing to do. I was saying in the class on Friday that worry is insanity. Not like insanity, not leads to insanity. Worry is insanity because you're attending to something that is not happening. The yoga is an invitation, crystal clear, that our direct experience is the only thing that is happening, what you are experiencing moment to moment, unfolding in your presence. Worry takes us out of that, and then we're attending to something that is literally not happening. And most of the time, what we think was going to happen happens differently than we thought. So it's literally a form of insanity. So the yoga is encouraging us. So much of the scriptures are saying in their stories and the sutras, can we discern the difference between abstraction and reality in what is actually happening in your experience? Can you find anything other than experiencing? So it's just a deep and a beautiful study, this thing that we call yoga. Good. So let's again bring the knees back up here, if you will. And stretch the legs out. And again, any intuitive movement that you would like, we'll take a rest after this, we'll be done with these twists and move on, but we'll take some time here. So have some intuitive movement and then take a rest, and then we'll move on. And you know, it's really further interesting to go deeper into this exploration of resting. You know, it seems at first just simplistic. Well, I'm just going to rest, but we understand that the momentum and the complexity and the conditioning and the programming of the mind often prevents deep relaxation. So what we get to explore is that a lot of this abstraction, our ability as humans to abstract, and part of our creativity, is also very, very woven into our sense of identity. And so holding this sense of identity at the level of the abstract just can be downright exhausting. You know, holding a certain persona, holding certain identity characteristics that are really just stories about stories that we layer to create this identity of a self, of a personality. And it can be exhausting. It can create tension in the physical body. So to even rest from that, and this is what yoga is saying, is anything that is objective, anything that you can look at, hear, see, touch, taste, smell, think about, is objective, and it changes. It comes and it goes. It's basically a sand castle. It cannot be you. This is the abstraction. So yoga is saying, let's just take some time to relax from that, from all of these abstractions, from all of this projection of objective experience that we have come to see as ourself, this edifice of self that we've built, and rest into this open field of awareness. That I'm aware of these things. I'm aware of the sand castle, but I'm also aware of the ocean washing the sand castle away, and I'm still there in awareness. So the concept, the practice of the cultivating of rest is a very powerful one. And when we get close to this, of the nature of our self as this open-ended field of awareness, then it opens up space for how we then can be in the world. We're not as conditioned to follow these identities that we've created from abstraction. Okay, well, I'm definitely going to go back to the YouTube and listen to what I just said because I'm not quite sure. But if you got a little bit of that, then just totally forget about it. It's just another sandcastle. I said, I just built a little sandcastle for you. Now I'm trying to knock it down. But I don't really build too many sandcastles, but what I do, I was just at the beach in Florida and I'd love to dig holes, really deep holes. And I had a great experience digging a hole. There was a little boy, maybe 4 or 5 years old, running up the beach and his parents were behind him a bit. And he just came up and he stood there and he looked at my hole and he just was so appreciative. He's like, that is a nice hole. That is a nice hole. And his parents came up and he wanted them to appreciate it. So I realized that was the beginning of a yin master right there when he can appreciate the whole. So let's come on up, please. Bring your sandcastle up with you, and let's open the legs out. And depending on how your hips are, one of the things that I have been exploring for a while and sort of cautioning in a way is that if you have a full range of motion and it's edging out to maybe a little past your range of motion, and we come forward, this can tighten the hips and the SI joint in places that we're more moving into sort of muscular energy, muscular yang, sort of pushing past something. So what I've been recommending is back off a little bit so the hips can relax. Doesn't have to be a lot, but from, that's a little at my edge to, oh, that's more relaxed. So full straddle for you, but wherever the hips can fully relax. And then if your range of motion isn't really allowing for it to come to the hands so you can relax the shoulders or the forearms or further, then build up that bolstering. Again, blankets or pillows, but just to support the upper body weight. So when you start to ease in, you could just as easily back out. Yeah. So always setting up so it's this, not too deep that you're going to be concerned and struggle, but not so shallow that nothing is happening. And this is always unique and personal to you. And just exploring how maybe you go to a habitual depth and maybe miss several sort of tuggings or contractions along the way. So always coming into it nice and slow, just being curious, really staying with the felt sense of what's happening. And then when you settle, just to become very still and quiet. And this is all just another uh, exploration or benefit of really being able to rest, because then we can observe what it really is that is exhausting us. Where is this weariness that has become lodged in our bones? And so certainly when we're dealing with layers of personal story and persona and habits that are exhausting, we certainly don't want to necessarily, sometimes we do eliminate them all at once, but typically it's a gradual process. But from the place of deep relaxation, we can open up a contemplation to see what is really working and what is draining me, what is exhausting me, where is there a weariness? And then we can start to explore that, and not simply explore in terms of good or bad or yes or no, but this intuitive intelligence of the body. like I said earlier, how the body is holding everything. The body is holding the truth of really who we are at this level. So how we begin to listen to, really, this is not working. And this can be certainly a personality trait or a story or a habit or anything, a way that we move. And so we get to contemplate this in deep relaxation. And from this place of intuitive awareness, awakening the body's intelligence. And then if we want to make changes and we want to gain insight, then we move from there. So we're not meditating on the body is the meditation. Good, so let's come up from here, if you will. Come on up. And let's bring the soles of the feet together. And again, let your hips relax. So if you pull heels towards groin and the hips tighten, let them relax. If there's an issue in the hips and you need some support under one of the thighs or the knees, please provide that. And then again, relaxed upper body, the entire spine is forward bending, so don't force it or push it, but certainly just relax into it. Good. So let's come on up from here. And from here, we'll come to about hip width. So just extend the legs out. But again, not from a rigid alignment of tight quadriceps and activated feet. Let the hips relax. So hip width is going to be a little bit different for everyone depending on the head of the femur and the hip socket, just how it's angled. And the same thing will come into the forward bend. So again, and again, if you need support, a pillow or a blanket or something to make sure the torso weight is not too abrupt or severe into this, this restriction in the lower back. And it doesn't matter if the body moves at all. It doesn't matter if you're, sitting relatively upright or your forehead is on the floor. We're never concerned with depth or an aesthetic with this approach. However, you can always deepen with your sense of nuance. You can always become a little bit more subtle and a little bit more subtle. And what we get to notice is subtlety will open something up, that will open up, that will open up. It's endless. So this is why we encourage the stillness, not as at a sense of discipline, but to become more nuanced. This is the depth, this is the deepening. We're exploring a system that is miraculously nuanced, incredibly complex and subtle. So allow the subtlety to open into more subtlety. Allow that subtlety to open into more nuance. This is the depth. This is what we're exploring, the non-linear, non-linguistic, non-conceptual nature of the self. Good. So let's emerge from here. And we're going to come back to putting the soles of the feet together. And we'll continue the forward bend. Nice and easy. The more you can relax the lumbar area, almost as an unengagement of the muscles. Again, we're not worried about depth. Where your body starts to contract, this is where you begin the exploration of nuance. As a matter of fact, the very moment you become concerned with an aesthetic, it's just simply no longer yoga. And then it's so, really beautiful. Yoga can turn into such just a delightfully intimate, beautiful way to explore oneself and ultimately be in one's body and beyond just the physical relief we get, because we're able to really notice. It's a way of noticing, a way of exploring, where we can see that when we remove the label from discomfort, we can sink into the discomfort. When we start to relax the density of discomfort, we can sink into vibration, we can sink into energy. When we relax the vibration of energy, when we relax the energy of vibration, we can just sink into emptiness. And then when we begin to focus, the emptiness then morphs back into our energy, our vibration, our life force. A little more focus, that energy vibration morphs into discomfort. A little more focus, and that discomfort morphs then into a label, a definition, a diagnosis. So we have this gradation within us, this ability to be curious and present that is not static. There's no right way to do it. There's no technique. This is an open-ended, intimate contemplation on the nature of your consciousness, yourself, your beingness. Good, so let's come up from here and come on up and open the legs out and put the hands behind the back and just allow your shoulders and upper chest to expand as you breathe up, so the chin will come up. And then when you exhale, did I say breathe up? I meant inhale. So inhale everything up, exhale, relax and soften that. Not only that lower back, but let the diaphragm really press up into right up into the top of the solar plexus. When you exhale, let the belly contract, and inhale, open, open, open. The diaphragm is pressing down a bit. Up and down, nice and slow. And then I'd like to come full circle to where we began. And I'm going to suggest to take the large bolster or your collection of blankets and pillows, and without the secondary cross piece that we used the second time, and just tuck this into the lower back. The only thing you may want to add on the second time we're doing this is sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of a roll towel or blanket and put that under the neck. So again, tuck it way in, keep the buttocks on the floor, and then you could just let the head relax down. But what I'm doing here is I'm placing a roll under my neck. So this is supporting the cervical spine in a way that it can relax, because this is the way it naturally curves. And then we'll let the legs relax out and open, let the arms just relax to the side. And we'll just feel this sense of full circle to this is where we began. And I just want to make a bit of a clarification. So when I talk about the intelligence of the brain, the left hemisphere, we could call it the quality of the yang, the masculine, and I talk about the intelligence of the body, the right brain, the feminine, the intuition. This is just a convenience of language. There is no intelligence of the left brain. There is no intelligence of the body per se. The intelligence is life itself. And our vehicles, if you will, our beingness, whether it is showing up as brain or heart or digestive system or fingers, is simply the life force itself, the supreme intelligence of life itself expressing itself through us. And I think something that is, at least for myself, it becomes rather important to remember. And not just remember, but to cultivate this understanding, is that the way that the life force comes through us is based on all of our perspectives, all of our belief systems, all of our conditioning. And why this is important, it's important to know that if you had another person's perspective, if you had another person's belief system, you would behave the way they behave. So for me, this is foundational to compassion, foundational to compassion and a sense of the real oneness and wholeness that we cultivate in yoga. You know, ultimately, we could simply call it love. The recognition that it is life itself, the same life that animates the bumblebees and the birds and the clouds and the volcanoes and the tornadoes. This life force is expressing itself through you and through me in a particular way. And through my perspectives and through my trainings and through my belief systems, it comes through in a very specific way. Sort of, in a way, open-ended, infinite light of consciousness coming through a funnel. And it's coming through the funnel of will. And it's coming through the funnel of all of you. So this is our contemplation. Our contemplation is allowing our mind, allowing our heart, allowing our body to be as open as possible, to loosen the threads of attachment to belief systems and opinions and judgments, and to allow the vehicle to be as open as possible so this light of consciousness, this intelligence of life can stream through us in an easier way, in a lighter way. And it allows us to look upon others in the world with a certain kind of compassion. We then start to see ourself in others, the same intelligence of life in that and that and that and that we see in ourselves. It's just one. This would ultimately be the meaning of the Sanskrit namaste. I recognize that intelligent life in you, that is the intelligent life in me. The light of consciousness in you, same light of consciousness in me, just coming through a different filter. My funnel has different filters. So then the true prayer for a yogi, the true prayer of someone that realizes the trap of non-duality, the true prayer is the dissolution of the one who is praying and the one who is being prayed to, leaving the heart open and loving. And so our closest connection to this intelligence of life, in yoga we call it the prana, is to just simply breathe consciously. So let's come into just a little bit of a conscious breathing. Feel the presence of the intelligence when you inhale. Feel the presence of the intelligence when you exhale. And if you would like to stay in this backward bend, if you need more time, please do. If you would like to put your feet on the floor and roll out and come into Shavasana, please do. If you would like to roll off of this and sit up for our final closing, please do. Your choice. Namaste.